I think from a tactical standpoint, I think Kawhi and his team maybe made a mistake by just saying that I want to be traded, but I only want to be traded to L.A., that being the Lakers and the Clippers. Like, if you want to be traded, you say where you want to be traded. And I think that was the important thing, saying where he was going to go, because to me, I've always had just a little bit of people telling me that they didn't think R.C. Buford and Greg Popovich, that they would trade Kawhi, not only trade him, but trade him to the Lakers. So I knew that would be a problem. So if Kawhi wants out, trying to have that type of restriction only makes it more difficult. And you reveal your total hand of what you want them to do, because you really want to be moved. Now, Kawhi still has leverage. If they trade him somewhere in the East, Kawhi tells the team, I'm not going to sign a contract extension.
Right. So he made it to where if people believe the only place that you're getting him for more than 1 year is Los Angeles, then he made it to where the best offers the Spurs will get would be from one of the two Los Angeles teams. Now that the draft is passed, most likely the Lakers. The Clippers, when they sold those draft picks that weren't yet human beings, they were just intangible picks, then they could have made a package. But here's the thing, and I understand there's a real rivalry between the Spurs and the Lakers. I understand that these are the two, until Golden State came about for the last 4 years, these two teams dominated the conference for 20 years between the Spurs and the Lakers. You had 10 championships from between these teams from 99 up to right now. So I get it. But when you have an opportunity that the Spurs have, which is one of the best trade assets to come about in recent NBA history, you have to take the best offer, no matter who is offering it. Now, if the best offer comes from the East, that's a bonus, but I would not turn down any offer because of who's offering it if it's my best offer.
Yeah, and I think that I think you bring up a great point about the 20-year, the rivalry. But if you look since Pop and R.C. Buford have been there, how did the Lakers get their best players? Through trade.
Yes.
So why would I help a franchise that is on a downward trend? Why would I help them resurrect their basketball future in giving them my best player? Now, I do believe that them demanding to go to the Lakers, that they could always try to get a better deal from another team in the East, but Pop saying that he was only going to coach for 2 more seasons. I believe he's a very, very responsible person, and he is not going to be the person to leave San Antonio in worse basketball shape by letting Kawhi go to the Lakers when he resigns and then having to watch them battle with the Lakers for championships into the future.
Pop finally sat down with Kawhi this past week. If you are the Spurs, would you consider just keeping him? Are you in a rush to actually make a deal, or would you wait until as far as the trade deadline or next? What's your timeline?
If it's as broken as Kawhi's camp has made it seem that it is, as far as the relationship, that whether it started with a misdiagnosis and then some anger about what was leaked, what wasn't leaked, some of the things that teammates said, if it is so broken that you are all but certain he's leaving, then you have to trade him before the season starts, because you have to get a legitimate return. Like, I want people to understand, because he sat out a year. So I think people forget how good this guy is. The last time a top 5 player in his prime was available, you could argue was Kevin Garnett. You might argue it goes before that to Shaq when he went Lakers to Heat. This is similar to Barkley going to the Suns. This is much bigger than Kyrie Irving being available. A guy that's in that 8 to 15 range comes available every couple, 3 years. Kawhi Leonard is 26 years old, a Defensive Player of the Year, and a Finals MVP. He's available. If you can get him, it means one thing, but also means if you're trading him, you have to get a king's ransom for it.
Yeah, and there's no system that he can't play in. People want to play up and down, Kawhi can play that. If you want to play half-court basketball, you can play that. He's self-motivated, and we know he's one of the best two-way players. So when you talk about how good Kawhi is, I mean, he can fit in any team, any organization. So for me, they have to be able to get a significant haul in trading him.
Then, despite knowing that his intentions are to play in Los Angeles, if you, though, are Philadelphia or you're Boston, do you think if we get him in our system, if we get him playing here, accustomed with the market, we could convince him to want to stay here?
I'll let you go ahead on this. I have a theory, but go ahead.
I think it's very, very difficult for Kawhi to get in his head. Now, I do believe that there's a part of Kawhi's team that would like him on the East Coast. They prefer New York. Like, he would prefer to be in Los Angeles or in New York. Now, I don't believe Boston, but when you can't go to Los Angeles and you're trying to get away from San Antonio, what are your options? They trade him to the Boston. I'm sure that Danny Ainge and the Boston, the brass, they can convince Kawhi that this is the best place for him. So I believe now it gets more intriguing. I don't believe they're going to trade him to the Lakers, and I just believe that Philadelphia and Boston are viable spots for Kawhi.
Listen, if I think I can win a title this coming year, I absolutely would trade for Kawhi, believing I'll be able to keep him. And if I can't, maybe we win the title. Because here's the thing. Kawhi and his folks, I understand it, believe he wants to be in Los Angeles or New York. And he wants to be in Los Angeles or New York. But people also need to understand he's from Southern California. He went to college in Southern California. And then he gets drafted by the Spurs. If he spends a year in Philly, maybe he realizes, every city that's not LA isn't San Antonio. Is that the experience of, I can get the big city experience. I can get some of the exposure. I can get the lifestyle things LA offers, aside from the weather, in other places.
And also, when he was doing the rehab and spent an extensive amount of time on the East Coast, I could start to hear in Kawhi in his camp that, the East Coast is not so bad. And it is a viable option, but that was communicated to me that was New York City and playing for the Knicks.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, should any teams be concerned about his health? Do you think that's a factor?
Absolutely. I need to see him on the court. Yes, you can't take the things for granted that Nick is saying as far as his youth, being a two-way player, being one of the top 5 players, but I need to see him on the court. If he had been on the court, we wouldn't be talking about a trade. So, yes, I believe that's very important that I'm able to, because I can't trade all those assets without knowing if he's able to play in 2018-19 season.
And I just want to circle back to the idea of we don't want to trade him in the West for a moment. What the Spurs need to realize, and I think they do because they are run by such smart people, that is, with Popovich retiring in 2 years, with your best player absent of Kawhi being LaMarcus Aldridge, where your team basically played as well as it possibly could have this year without Kawhi, and they were drawing dead for a championship the entire time. If you trade him, it doesn't matter where he goes, because the rest of his prime, you're not a contender yet. If you trade him, you are trading him so you are a contender in 4 years minimum. Because you have to have a top 5 player in this league to be a contender. So if you get Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram, for example, and one of those guys maybe one day is a top 5 player, that's 4 or 5 years down the road. So your windows and Kawhi's windows won't match up. If you trade Kawhi, you're no longer competing for championships in the short term. So it doesn't matter where he's competing for championships, because that's not your real competition.
I just believe if you ignore all trade offers, Sarah, then you're being irresponsible. I believe you should listen. Now, as far as you should have a preference of where you would like to trade him, because it's fairly obvious in this meeting with Pop and Kawhi, Kawhi did what a lot of people didn't think he could do. Look Pop face to face and tell him, I don't want to be there. So he's from California, played basketball in Southern California. Of course he would want to go back home. We all do. But I think San Antonio, they should go for the best offer. It might come from Los Angeles, but it might come from Boston. But I keep everyone
in play. You got to keep
play.
everyone in play.
Pop said he's not coaching after 2020. So you got to be responsible enough to leave this situation in better condition than when you came. I believe his relationship with R.C. Buford, the general manager, one of the best in the business, and they will do that. They will have a star player or two to choose as far as moving forward. But I believe you have to listen to the Lakers, because the Lakers want Kawhi. Kawhi said he wants to be there, and they do have young assets. Maybe not assets that you would want as much as some in Boston or in Philadelphia, but you must listen to the Lakers' pitch.
If you trade Kawhi Leonard, which I think they're going to do, you will be trading away the best player that's been traded since Shaq was traded from the Lakers to the Heat. Okay, like people need this.
Yeah, disregard LeBron and what they did.
Right, I'm not counting those phony sign-in trades where a guy says I'm going here if you want to technically trade me. I'm talking about a guy you have under contract he is a better player right now than Chris Paul was when he was traded to the Clippers.
Yes.
He is a better player than Dwight was when he was traded to the Lakers. He's a better player than Kevin Garnett was when he was traded to the Celtics. He will be the best player traded since Shaq was traded. And 2 years later, by the way, that team won a title. This is, to me, along the lines of when Barkley got traded from the Sixers to the Suns, right around the same ranking, 4th, 5th best player in the league, and a franchise-changing decision for both parties involved. I say all that to say this. You have to simply take the best package. You cannot take an inferior package because at least it's not in your conference. Because once you trade Kawhi, you're not competing for championships for the next few years.
It'd be different if you were trading them to Houston or Golden State. Compared to the Lakers and how far the Lakers are away.
Sure, but the thing is this, unless I was getting a superstar back for him, once you trade away Kawhi, your window is closed and you're trying to open a new one. That new one's not going to be open for 4 or 5 years. You don't know what Kawhi's going to be like in 4 or 5 years. You're not competing for championships during Kawhi's championship window if you trade him away. Because you're not competing for championships unless you have a top 5 player. And so maybe whatever package includes the guy most likely to become a top 5 player, that's the one you take.
What if you don't? Are you not excited about Lonzo Ball being part of the trade to the Lakers?
Well, that's fine. I'm not saying you have to trade him to the Lakers. I trust R.C. Buford. I trust Greg Popovich. I trust their player evaluation. But what I'm saying is you have to be agnostic on who you're sending him to and only evaluate what you're getting back. You have to look at a deal and say, well, these teams could be the Raptors and the Bucks. Doesn't matter. Which team is giving us the best return? And if that's a Western Conference team, you got to deal with it.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from